Budapest is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, from the breathtaking Parliament building to the idyllic courtyard block neighborhoods. The Hungarian capital has been known for a very long time as one of the premier destinations of Europe, with its classical beauty right at the heart of such a reputation. Generally speaking, the most beautiful cities in Europe are that way as a result of the 20th century being relatively kind to them, meaning not being bombed out during either the world wars or being turned upside down and into boring boxes by the Soviets or the modernists. Places like central Paris and much of the rest of France, as well as Italy, Spain, and Portugal fall into this category. However, almost miraculously, Budapest does not, yet still holds on to so much of its classical character. Budapest went under siege in both of the world wars, with the Second World War particularly destructive, resulting in the razing of most of Buda Castle, the site of the royal palace of Hungary dating back to 1265, and was also known for its highly detailed Baroque architecture. Hungary then went under communist rule as a Soviet satellite state, who were not exactly known for their embracing of classical architecture. Their fingerprints can be seen throughout Hungary and Budapest, but thankfully, not in the overwhelming way that it was done in so many other cities. That being said, Budapest in the past decade has been laser focused on beautification, and a lot of this push is directly from the national government. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to drop a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. The Fidesz-controlled parliament, led by Viktor Orban, has decreed what can be compartmentalized as 3 projects that are reshaping important buildings and places across Budapest and to a certain extent all of Hungary, as you will see. The first one we'll talk about is the National Hauszmann program, which is a project to restore the Buda Castle district back to its former glory. This covers a fairly large area, and one that is popular amongst tourists, but also locals, as the area stands as a demonstrable symbol of Hungarian history, tradition, and culture. This is the rebuilding of the guardhouse. And as you can see, these restorations are being done with high quality materials and looks as good as anything built centuries ago. The building has a cafe and a restaurant in its interior. And this is a restored riding hall. This was an empty plot of dirt not long ago, following the original building's destruction during World War II, but now the hall and its surrounding pedestrian and green space has been rebuilt, including its incredible interior. Beyond buildings, there is also the restoration of the Stockholm stairway and the Hauszmann ramp, with the adjacent Turkish gardens. Karakash Pasha Tower has also been rebuilt, fitted with an information center and a cafe. The Ebel Wall was also renovated to give a more unified, attractive appearance. Of course, Buda Castle itself is also being renovated and rebuilt to its former glory, as it was heavily damaged during the Second World War. While it was restored post-war, it was done in a simplified style. The current works are due to bring about its complete restoration. This is by far the most meticulous and difficult process for the people behind the Hauszmann program, but based on the work we've seen so far, I'm sure they will achieve what they're setting out to do. A lot of the current work is being done on the north wing of the palace. The interior has also been renovated, with St. Stephen's Hall particularly stunning. It's not a total restoration, as originally this room was purely Romanesque, but the current works fitted in more authentic Hungarian figures and symbols, which might make this an actual improvement over the original. It's crazy that we can still build this way in 2022. All it takes is will. Currently being built is the Hungarian Red Cross headquarters, which has been an empty plot for decades since the original building was demolished by the communists. Another major project here is St. Joseph's Palace. It was damaged heavily during the war, and it was since demolished and gone, until now, as this incredible neo-Renaissance building and accompanying gardens will be brought back. The Royal Defense Headquarters, which only had its base preserved, will now be brought back to its former height and serve as a visitor center and contain exhibition halls. The National Archives building at Vienna Gate will also be rebuilt, bringing back the prominent back tower. It also has to be pointed out that green spaces, fountains, promenades, and walkways have all been renovated as well, in order to make the most out of the pedestrian experience, with car traffic also having been heavily limited. It's amazing to think that these buildings that stood for centuries before their destruction are being rebuilt right now, and that they will stand for centuries into the future. Moving on to the next government decree, we have the Steindl Imre program, which is meant to restore the buildings and streets around Kossuth Square, which is where the famous Parliament building is, and right in the heart of Budapest, which has been damaged in the Second World War and poorly restored by the communists. Before even getting into the buildings, the square and surrounding streets have been transformed in the best way possible. Spaces that were devoted to roads and parking spaces have now been given back to pedestrians, in addition to vastly improved green spaces and the restoring of monuments and statues such as this one of Count Giola Andrassi. The quality of the monuments, as well as even the stone that had been laid out to replace the former asphalt, is just exceptional. This is what urbanism is all about. And to keep going on this, the adjacent Kossuth Square has also been redesigned and given back to pedestrians, as well as a stretch of Hauszmann Street, which, in addition to being pedestrianized, has also had a monument built into the ground that memorializes historical places in Hungary. This project isn't just a restoration, it's a true enhancement. But now let's get into the buildings. The first one I will cover is easily the most famous transformation that's happened in Budapest, and I've actually featured it on my channel before, which is the restoration of the Szeged György office building. What people may not know is that both sides of this building actually saw renovations, but the striking transformation from brutalist to new classical is what makes this project so unbelievable. And once again, the quality of the actual finished work is just perfectly authentic. It makes for a great representation of the new classical urbanist movement. Back to Kossuth Square, its accompanying building is being brought back to its original aesthetic, which mainly sees a restoration of the roof and ornamentation. Simply just fixing the roof of a building adds so much character. The Ministry of Agriculture building is being rebuilt from the ground up, which, in the words of the project's website, will restore the original richness of the Bukovic-style neo-Renaissance facades, which have been simplified in its original rebuilding post-Second World War. The interior is also being entirely revamped to suit current-day functionality, which explains the total rebuild. The Palace of Justice is also being renovated, but mainly interiorly. The building had functioned as a museum for a few decades, but will now once again be home to the judicial branch of government for the first time since before the Second World War. Having this incredible building actually serve its intended purpose, I think is a great thing, and preserves the historical value of this facility, giving increased meaning to the way that it is designed. Lastly in this program is the reconstruction of this nearby apartment building back to its original ornamentation and style, as the original facade played an important role in the character of Kossuth Square. The Parliament Guard will be housed here, as well as the Speaker of the House. Once again, the roof and ornamentation really uplifts this building spectacularly. The third government decree is without name, but Decree 1730/2020 is a general ruling that buildings across Budapest and Hungary that have lost their unique roof structures or ornamentation due to simplified restoration should now be completely reinstituted. This has resulted in the project to restore Eötvös Loránd University's main building in Egyetem Square, which should look amazing once it's completed. This will also be happening with the rebuilding of the dome of this building at Budapest University of Technology and Economics, and this building on Károly Boulevard, which serves as a theater. While, as you would expect, this has all become a bit controversial, and there are several critics of these projects, I think it's great that Hungary is pushing forward with these restorations. Something that I've realized from making my videos is that there will always be people who push back against progress, even if it's something as beneficial and virtuous as beautifying cities. But the people of Budapest with these projects get to live in an even more beautiful, awe-inspiring, and culturally rich city than they already do, which is an amazing thing. Living in a beautiful city, and one that is working to become even more beautiful, is something that is inspiring and fills its residents with gratitude, local pride, and uplifts the soul. We're so used to redevelopment projects that in some way kill the previous charm of the places they rebuild. Even the recent redevelopment of Notre Dame, which for the most part is amazing, still found a way to put in this horrendous altar that looks straight out of IKEA. But Budapest is doing the opposite, and instead is working to bring back the complete classical prestige of its former self, and doing so shamelessly. There's no injection of modernism in the slightest, as they are humble enough to understand that there's nothing of value in modernist ideology that can surpass the previous beauty of the places they are restoring. They're allowing themselves to be students of the past, and in doing so, are now more in touch with their history and culture than ever before. And I believe that's a great thing, because that's what makes places unique and interesting. But I say students, because now that Budapest is undergoing these projects en masse, there's now a whole generation of architects, artists, and builders who have relearned the old ways, and can now apply that into the future with projects that actually are new and innovative, but with respect to the classical foundations that makes places beautiful. And if they're able to maintain the high standards of the current works, the future of Budapest and Hungary, at least in terms of its city planning and placemaking, looks very bright. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. And of course, a shout out to my Master Architect patrons: Jean Baptista, Michael Goldman, Ulysses Arnold, Ehsan Mirza, Joseph, Sven Weisbrod, Andrew Groger, Roach, Eric Martz, James Gearhart, Simon Kendrick, Ruben Hansen, and my dad.